This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. My topic today might be called Capitalism's False Defenses. In recent interviews and debates, I've encountered two basic propositions brought forward by conservatives, libertarians, and so on in defense of capitalism now that it is increasingly criticized. And I want directly to refute and oppose those defenses because I believe they are false. Here's the first one. It is pointed out that over the last 3 centuries, the time when capitalism spread and became the dominant economic system across the world, that over these last 3 centuries of capitalism's spread, standards of living have been improved, levels of education, healthcare, housing, conditions of work, wages, all have gone up. And therefore we are told we should celebrate and thank and respect capitalism. The argument being slipped in here is that capitalism brought us these things. But that's false. In every case, the improvements in wages, working conditions, length of the working day, health, education, welfare, it was capitalists who opposed the improvement, who delayed the improvement, and it was the working class which fought for and finally won them. Capitalists imposed on workers the 16-hour workday. Read your Charles Dickens. Learn about it if you don't already know. It took struggle to reduce the regular working day from 16 to 14 to 12 to 10 and finally to 8 hours a day. And who fought for that? The capitalists? No. They opposed it at every step. It was the working class, the unions, the socialists, and the communists who fought and eventually won. Better housing, better health conditions, National Health Service. Recent history is the same. Who has blocked increasing the minimum wage in this country for the last 11 years so it's stuck at the disgusting $7.25 an hour? The business community, the capitalists. And who's fought to raise it? The unions and the labor movement. And so it was at every turn. Look, improvements were won, but the capitalists don't deserve the credit. They deserve the blame for having imposed the conditions in the first place, the blame for opposing improvements all along the way, and the blame again for having stalled off and delayed those improvements that were finally won. Don't let anyone fool you into giving capitalism the credit for what had to be won over their die-hard opposition. The second argument, supposedly to defend capitalism, is to associate socialism with mass deaths. Stalin, Mao, and various other characters are brought forward with the attempt to suggest that because large numbers of people died when these individuals were in power, that therefore there's a necessary association between the socialism that was in power in Russia and China at that time is somehow murderous in a way that capitalism in its time couldn't be, wouldn't be, never was. That is false. Let me give you just a few examples. If we're really going to go down the road of counting dead bodies as a form of social analysis, let's go back to a big one, probably the biggest one, World War I. Every discussion that I know of about that war that has any support and credibility points out that it was a war driven by the competing imperial goals of the capitalist classes in Britain, in Germany, in the United States, in Russia leading up to World War I, when it was a capitalist-driven economy. So capitalism was the system that presided over and went to war. Yes, there were elements of other systems in those countries at that time, but that was true of Russia and China in the times that are pointed to in that case. World War I killed tens of millions of people. It was a horrible war, the worst. That's why it's called a World War I. And right after it came, in a few years, World War II, where the combatants, with the one exception of the Soviet Union, were all capitalist countries that had gone to war with one another. Oh, I know, the word fascism is used to try to do what? To suggest that Germany wasn't a capitalist country? Guess what? All the leading capitalists in Germany, the Krupps, the Thyssen's, all of them were high officials of the Nazi government. They were the backers financially of the Nazi political party. You know what they did to the communists in Germany when the Nazis came to power? They imprisoned and killed them. There's no question which side Nazism falls on in the socialism versus capitalism confrontation. And let me mention just in passing one more. The capitalists of Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, England, I could go on, were the ones who seized the rest of the world in what we call colonialism. The British Empire, upon which the sun was said never to set, was an empire carved by dominating Africa, Asia, good parts of Latin America, and so on. In the course of subjecting all these people and all these parts of the world to the roles they were to play, delivering food, raw materials, mining products to the industrialized capitalists to profit from them. Millions and millions died of starvation, of deprivation, of colonial butchery. The record is long and deep. Capitalism has no place at all to point the finger of dead bodies left in its wake at anyone else. If there's no excuse for it on one side, there's none on the other. And therefore it is not a basis upon which to defend one of them against the other. So those two defenses, so often the bushes behind which the defenders of capitalism hide, they don't hold water. The defense doesn't either. This is Richard Wolff thanking you for your attention and asking you, if you can, to join us, to support us, to partner with us, to get these and similar messages out into the conversation of the United States and beyond.